I repeat?
Yes.
Abai warned that legal action could be taken against such a religious fraud, but the week continued, and hundreds were cheated. While the professed followers of Vedic culture were being baffled in their allegiance, modern westernized Indians were rejecting Vedic culture as backwards and irrelevant. There was Prime Minister Nehru, who wasn't at all spiritually inclined. He was for modernization and for what Aboy called made in London ideas. At least Mahatma Gandhi, although he had never responded to Aboy's letters, had been spiritually inclined, but not so his follower, Pandit Nehru. Still, out of concern for the way Indians leaders were rejecting their country's spiritual heritage, Aboy decided to write Pandit Nehru. Although in Bombay, Aboy was practically homeless. In August of 1958, he boldly wrote the Prime Minister, expressing his conviction that India's spiritual culture must not only be revived at home, but also be distributed to the West. He reminded Pandit Nehru that from ancient Greece down to the atomic age, the Western world had seen only materialism and had therefore never known peace. If Nehru were to continue following the path of materialism, the only results would be strife and war. Therefore, India may not waste her time in imitating the Western way of life. You have admitted if you have admitted it that you have admitted it that the position of Indian culture is of high order. But at the same time, you want to bring in material prosperity by scientific advancement and of knowledge. But what is that scientific knowledge? Spiritualism is also advanced scientific knowledge. Material advancement of scientific knowledge cannot give even material prosperity to the people in general. Do you think that horseless carriage, telephonic or radio communication, or any other such ephemeral facilities of life can bring in material prosperity? No, it cannot. Material prosperity means the people must have sufficient to eat or to maintain the body very soundly. Do you think that your different plans have brought in that material prosperity or that modern Western civilization can bring in that prosperity? Even they are given that facility, the unrest will continue to go on till there is spiritual satisfaction of life. That is the secret of peace.
Thank you. Even without having been to the West, Abai expressed his conviction that the Americans and even the Russians were hankering for spiritual realization. They could not have become satisfied merely with material advancement. Pandit Nehru, therefore, should help his friends in the West by offering them spiritual knowledge from India. Poverty means poverty of knowledge. Prime Minister Chanakya used to live in a thatched cottage, but he was the dictator of India during the time of Chandragupta. Mahatma Gandhi voluntarily accepted the way of living of the so-called poor man and was the dictator of Indian destiny. But was he poverty-stricken? He was proud of his spiritual knowledge. Therefore, spiritual knowledge makes a man really rich man and not the radio set or the motor car, etc. Back in 1930s, the Nehru family had bought their medicine from Abai Prayag pharmacy, and Abai now appealed to Pandit Nehru as an old friend from Allahabad. Just as Abai had requested Mahatma Gandhi, he requested Nehru to leave his political responsibilities and, as a popular gentleman of the world, engage the rest of your life in this organized spiritual movement to make a real adjustment of Western material science combined with Indian way of spiritual realization. As with his letter to Gandhi, his letter to Nehru went unanswered. Jacovinta, please.
Among Aboy's former Bombay contacts was Mr. Harbanslal, a landlord who had once assured Aboy that he would provide him lodging whenever he needed. In the summer of 1958, Aboy went to call on Mr. Harbanslal, only to find that he had gone to the west. When a boy learned that Mr. Harbansal was traveling not only on business but on cultural mission, his imagination seized on the idea of an Indian on a cultural mission in the West. He wrote Mr. Harbansal asking for a place to stay, but also presenting his own cultural mission. A boy knew that many Westerners respected Indian culture. He had heard from his German godbrother that although Indians who went to the West, especially to Germany, were well received, they were sometimes tested on their knowledge of Indian culture. So Bai advised Mr. Harbansal to teach the real conclusion of Indian culture as he traveled. I think that people need this Indian message in this hour of necessity when the atomic bomb is hovering over the head of human society. Please, therefore, begin the activities for the benefit of all people in the foreign countries, since you have gone there. Clearly, a boy would have liked to have gone himself. A boy also reminded Mr. Harbansal of his promise to provide him with an apartment. I am passing my days in Bombay in great inconvenience for want of a suitable residential place. But the letter never caught up with the touring Mr. Harbansal. Wanting to go to the West as soon as possible, Abai visited one of his godbrothers in Bombay, Kripa Sindhu, and asked him to help.
Thank you. Divya Bhakti, please.
Thank you. Kripa Sindhu speaking. He came to my house and asked me to help him in going to America. He gave me some back to Godheads, which he said I could show to people to ask for help on his behalf. I tried to do something in this regard. I introduced Abai Babu to one man, a big industrialist, Hemraj Kandelwala. I went also. The three of us sat down, and I told the man how Abai wanted to go to the West, and how he was a good devotee and was writing and doing so many things. But somehow or other, the man did not help. Kripa Sindhu told Abai of how the Gaudiya Math in Bombay had sometimes been assisted by a pious business magnate, Mrs. Sumati Murarji, head of Scindia steamship lines. Abai tried to see her but was unable. He did, however, see one of Mrs. Murarji's employees, a deputy manager for the Scindia company, who heard him out and, to Abai's surprise, responded generously. Considering Abai a genuine sadhu, the Scindia agent offered him a 50% concession on a voyage from India to the United States. He even put it in writing. Abai immediately began arranging for his passport and visa. He could not raise even the half fare. Back in 1956 in Delhi, he had been struggling and homeless. And now, as he considered his last 2 years of traveling out of Vrindavan, he felt that his position hadn't really improved. Perhaps Krishna didn't want him to succeed in this way. But one positive thing he had gained: determination to go to the West and preach. There he would surely meet with success.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pravleen, please.
Alone and poor, Abhay returned to Vrindavan. He was 62, but he wasn't thinking of retiring. More than ever, his mood was reflective and renounced, because few people knew him, and because he wanted to write, he kept to himself. He enjoyed deep peace as a resident of Vrindavan. Outside his window, the sacred Yamuna flowed by in a peaceful panorama. For his private audience, the Caitanya-caritamrta neighborhood was quiet, though in the pre-dawn he could hear a few devotees bathing and chanting. When the moon was full, the river seemed like a coolly resplendent jewel, and in the morning the sun would appear like a red smudge, a fire burning through an opaque wall, at last bursting forth and clearing the entire sky. until in the hot blaze of noon, while the room would be in shadows, Abhay could see from his window a shimmering sun high in the sky and glittering across the silver sheet of the gentle river. Without so much as leaving his room, from his doorway he could see hundreds of temples clustered together for miles in the friendly town of Vrindavan. The various punctual kirtanas and bell ringings in the temples, the spontaneous songs to Lord Krishna in numerous homes, and in the streets rose and filled the air with devotion. On the veranda, Abhay could chant japa, and there would be no interruption. He enjoyed a simple, almost carefree life of minimized physical wants, a few hours of rest at night, a little prasadam at noon, the simplest clothing, and he did not have to flatter anyone, support anyone, or manage anyone's life. His mind and intelligence were free and dwelt constantly on his service to his spiritual master. He saw his present circumstances as a preparation for a greater task before him.
Thank you.
Despite
The next one, Alison, please.
Where are we, Mataji?
In the middle of the paragraph, despite his advanced age.
Okay, despite his advanced age, he felt that he had barely begun his work, yet he felt confident. He had a vision of a world, the salvation of devotees. It was not an ideal dream, although he was not certain of how it would all come about. But he knew his duties. For the present, he would go to suiting his vision, the vision of his predecessor, spiritual master, in articles and books. But as soon as possible, he should go to the West. The Westerners, he concluded, were not satisfied with material comfortable of life devoid of spiritual understanding. More, his fellow Indians, they would be open to the message of absolute truth. She should go, and he would go if Krishna desired. Abhay lived tragically in Vrindavan, keeping an exact amount of every expediter and every receipt. He carefully kept a ledger, as if he was running a substantial business. Even though his purchases were only a little milk, a few vegetables, charcoal for cooking, bus rides, and his major expediter's postage. Abhay composed a Bengali poem, Vrindavanam Bhajan. Its opening stanzas were especially self-reflective and personal. I am sitting alone in the room, Vrindavan Dham. In this mood, I am getting many realizations. I have my wife, sons, daughters, grandsons, everything, but I have no money. So they are fruitless. They are fruitless glory. Krishna has shown me the naked form of material nature, but by his strength, it all has become tasteless to me today. Yashayam ham anugra hanami harisi tad danam sane. I graciously take all the wealth of those upon whom I am merciful, how I was able to understand of this of all merciful.
Thank you. Jujar, please, the second.
Of merciful, one sec.
Is the second poem.
How does it start?
Starts
Everyone has abandoned seeing me telling my relatives, friends, brothers, everyone. This is misery, but it gives me a laugh. I sit alone and laugh. In this Maya Sansara, who am I? Who do I really love? Where have my loving father and mother gone now? And where are all my elders, who were my own folk? Who will give me news of them? Tell me who. And that is left of this family life is a list of names. Number 3. As the froth of the seawater mixes again in the sea, Maya Samsara's place just like that. No one is mother or father or personal relative. Just like the sea foam, they remain but a short time. Just as the froth of seawater mixes again in the sea, the body made of 5 elements meets with destruction. How can bodies does the embodied soul take in this way? How many bodies does the embodied soul take in this way? His relatives are all related merely to the temporal body. Number 4. Everyone is your relative, brother, or on the spiritual platform. This relationship is not tinged with the smell of Maya. The Supreme Lord is the soul of everyone. In relation to Him, everyone in the universe is the same. All your relatives, brother, all the billions of jivas, when seen in relation to Krishna, they are all in harmony. Forgetting Krishna, the jiva desires sense gratification, and as a result, he is firmly grasped by Maya.
Thank you. Jesus, please.
On an October visit to Delhi, a boy received a donation from Kaviraj Caitanya-caritamrta to be used for printing 1,000 copies of Back to Godhead. A boy promptly produced an October 20 issue of Back to Godhead with the donor's name on the front page. It was the first issue in 2 years. Another donor, Mr. Subodh Kumar Kapoor of Ramalal Kapoor and Sons, followed Mr. Suskar's example and donated 1,000 copies for the November 20 issue.
The front page article in the November issue was Truth and Beauty, an editorial in the Times of India speculating on whether truth and beauty were compatible. Had opined that truth was not always beautiful but often ugly and unpleasant. Abai disagreed. Truth is so beautiful that many sages, saints, and devotees have left everything for the sake of truth. But we are habituated to love untruth from the time immemorial in the name of truth. Abai agreed, however, that mundane truth and beauty were incompatible. Not only was mundane truth not beautiful, it was not truth, and mundane beauty was not real beauty. To explain about told the story. I think maybe here we should stop because the story might